Ever since I remember, Disneyland has been my favorite park. It's not only home to my most renowned roller coasters and attractions, but it's home to some of my fondest memories. In today's video, I will be going in depth and rank the coasters that the Disneyland Resort has to offer. In total, there are 6 coasters across Disneyland and California Adventure, and I will be ranking them solely based off of ride experience. Take in mind that in my coaster preferences, theming is really high up there, and this is a Disney park, so do not be too surprised by the results. Last but definitely not least is Gadget's Go Coaster. The small Vekoma Jr. coaster sitting in the back of the park is located in Toontown. This coaster is perfect for what it does. It provides us a nice transition coaster for smaller kids, and executes this really well. The layout is nothing special and is forceless for the most part. The environment around it, however, is really cool. A cartoonish landscape is displayed all around with vibrant cliffs and rocks. The coaster also interacts with these elements nicely. There is a small tunnel going through the cliff, final helix types turn around in the water, and both of these are pretty cool moments. One of my favorite parts about this ride is the goofy off frog sitting on the rock, and the really cool building block-like supports. Overall, this coaster is a really vibrant piece, and goes along with the land really nicely. I'm interested to see if this coaster gets any updates during the ongoing Toontown remodel. Next up in the number 5th spot is Goofy Sky School. This mock Wild Mouse has some of the worst theming on a Disney coaster. This coaster was formerly named Mulan Madness back when California Adventures was a subpar. I think Disney repurposed it to the best of their ability and it works. It just works. I never really go out of my way to ride this ride when I go to California Adventure, which due to the fact that it has the longer line, it doesn't have that Disney magic that you would normally expect, but it still definitely is an enjoyable experience. Overall, the storyline is that Goofy is going to become a pilot from reading How to Fly book, and you join him on his flight. There are some sharp turnarounds that give good laterals and some moderately sized drops. I don't really need to describe it more, it's just a typical Wild Mouse. The reason why I ranked this above Gadget's Go Coaster is pretty obvious. A junior coaster compared to a Wild Mouse, I'm pretty sure the Wild Mouse will win any day of the week. Even though Goofy Sky School has a significant lack of theming, the extra bit of thorough level over Gadget's Go Coaster puts it in the number 5 spot. The number 4 spot goes to Matterhorn bobsleds. This original tubular track design made by Aerodynamics was a pioneer of its time and set the course of history for roller coasters. This crazy project pursued by Walt Disney himself has riders going through a 1:100 scale of the Matterhorn. I absolutely love everything about this ride, except the ride itself. I'm 90% sure that this was my first decently sized roller coaster, and I rode it before 2012, so my 6-year-old self was allowed to sit in my mom's lap. This ride is the root of my coaster enthusiasm, and yet I still dislike the ride. This is due to the roughness it has. Who would have expected that the first ever circular track would get rough? It's in desperate need of a return. I do think it adds some personality to the ride, but for me it's just a sore. It's not headache inducing, it's back pain inducing. But enough about me being entitled. This is the one ride left at Disneyland that still has me on my toes when I ride it. Yes, the Yeti does scare me a bit. The Dark Lift Hill is perfect at building suspense, as the roars of the Yeti can be heard from throughout. You don't have this coaster layout memorized, so I do not know when the Yeti jumps out at you. My favorite part of the physical coaster has to be the splashdown at the very end. It's very unique for this type of coaster, and may get a few drops of water on you. Additionally, this coaster has 2 sides, and they are significantly different. The left side, or the Tomorrowland side, is much faster, and goes through the layout at sharper turns, and as a result is more bumpy. The right side, or Fantasyland side, is a little smoother and drawn out. The difference in size is pretty major, and comes up with a 20-second difference in ride time. Overall, it's pretty clear to me that this is a step above Goofy Sky School in both theming and thrill, and is worth a solid number 4 slot. In the number 3 spot is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. The retrack on this ride done by Dynamic Attractions has made the ride experience incredibly smooth. This is one of my top 3 most running coasters, and I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed every time. The physical ride for me is pretty boring, but the fact that you're racing on a mine through what looks like Monument Valley has me with a smile on my face the whole time. Everything from the queue line to the wildest ride in the wilderness is some of the fondest memories I have of Disney. I don't have much complaints about this ride except for the lack of intensity. As I grow older and out of my child state, I search to get that adrenaline rush, and this coaster no longer supplies it for me. In no means it's a bad coaster. This ride is long, smooth, and has some really good elements. The first lift hill in the Dark Cave is pretty cool, and from what I understand are the anti-rollbacks, they are really loud and you could hear them clacking away. The first drop is just average, but in the rest of the ride there are great near misses diving into different caves. Just to throw it in here now, the back row is a way to go on this ride. It provides an extra bit of whip and makes the next thing even more fun to do. On the second lift hill, always look at the goat on the turn and see how long you could stare at it. By far my favorite moment on the ride, and I love telling friends to join me. The third lift hill with the dynamite is cool, and the last section of coaster is not too special in my eyes. This coaster definitely is a step above Matterhorn, but is quite a few steps away from the top 2 coasters at the Disneyland Resort. Now, I'm about to introduce a controversial opinion. Calm down, it's gonna be okay, it's just a video. the number 2 spot goes to Incredicoaster. I think some of you will agree with me here. Incredicoaster feels, how do I say this, out of place. The boardwalk style coaster of California Screamin' was slapped on with the Incredibles IP, and I'm supposed to say it fits the land? Yeah, no. Anyways, let's talk about the positives. Incredicoaster was my first major coaster, my first launch coaster, my first inversion, my first coaster with over-the-shoulder restraints. Okay, I think we're reaching at straws at that last one. Anyways, this coaster was the big daunting wolf I did not want to ride as a child. Luckily, I mustered up the courage to ride it as Screaming, and I had to say I did enjoy it better that way. Nevertheless, the Incredibles IP did have some unique factors in it. The soundtrack is still really cool, and I love going through the long drawn-out turns listening to the epic music. I feel like a superhero saving the world when this happens. I have to say, this coaster is relatively smooth, except during the loop when it randomly becomes rough. There's fading airtime on the drop of the lift hill and some in the back row on the bunny hills. By far my favorite part of the ride, besides the on-ride soundtrack, is the launch. I absolutely love launch coasters, and this was my first one and might be the reason I love launches so much. I think this launch is decently powerful for a Disney coaster. The one thing that I would fix is the over-the-shoulder restraints. They don't interfere much with the forces, but they are bulky and unnecessary, as this coaster doesn't really pull much G's anyways. The storyline with Baby Jack Jack is unique, and I like the added work done to the previous empty tunnels. The ending show scene with Edna and the launch queue with Flash are all really nice additions that came from the Incredibles IP, and I really enjoy it. Coaster-wise, I would have to say that this is the best in the Disneyland, but for a ride experience, the next coaster definitely comes above and beyond. You all know it, you all want to hear it, Spacebound in Disneyland is the number 1 coaster at the resort. This coaster literally has me feeling like I'm flying through space. And don't get me started about the on-ride soundtrack, I could talk about it for hours. Michael Giacchino's soundtrack that he built for the ride has me feeling like the coolest, most epic, most coolest gamer on the planet. The fact that it's synced to the ride makes it 10,000 times better. I love the upbeat energy and height that's delivered from the ride, the lift hill that builds the anticipation for the sense of speed you have flying indoors. This ride seriously hits different. Although the coaster, like the other Disney coasters, is growing to be boring for me, Spacebound literally has me with the biggest smile on my face. I just can't help it. This is in my top 10 and I don't see it falling out anytime soon. It may not be the most action-packed sequence of dream elements springing together like a buffet that all our enthusiast dreams would prefer, but delivers the most fun and exciting experience. The fact that stars and comets are flying around and fans are blowing wind in your face just has me with the biggest smile on my face. If you can't tell that I absolutely love this ride, then you're pretty oblivious to what you're hearing. One thing to note is that the coaster needs a new paint job. Last time I went, I distinctly remember the stickers on the side of the trains peeling off, but knowing Disney, they already did that with their deep pockets and perfectionist ideology. I can't really complain much about this coaster, and the fact that it was built in 1977 shows how out of the time it was. I know it did get a major retack, but I was too young to experience what it was like before, and I'm perfectly satisfied with the experience it is now. The best part about this is that it's not my favorite ride in the park, or even my second favorite. Disney is just that good. Anyways, I'm heading off to Disney with school in a few weeks, so I will get some fresh takes on these rides. I'm going to make an individual review for each coaster in the near future, and maybe some review of the other attractions. As always, thanks for watching, and I would love some feedbacks in the comments as I start a brand new journey of YouTube. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.